Today is exactly 1 week since the ban on extra classes in Vietnam. Now, I have monitored, I have listened, I've spoken to people just to have an overview of how the ban is doing. As it stands now, if your center has closed, what it means is that your center is not registered. Your center is not known by the government. And that is why it has been closed. Those professional centers or the centers who are doing things which aligns with the law are still operating their centers.
So what do you do in the afternoon? You play football in the afternoon. And are you happy? You are happy? You are in grade 10. Are you happy? Yeah. Okay, so that's what's up with them. That's what's up with them.
Yeah. So this is my observation. My observation is that it's true now. Most classes have cancelled their afternoon classes. I use the word most because I used to have a lot of afternoon classes. They've all been cancelled. However, I have some outstanding classes that I still do in the afternoon. In this school, for instance, I'll be teaching here in the afternoon. I'll be sleeping here. Now, what happened last week was that only my class, my 2 classes, there were those who came for classes. The rest of the classes, nobody showed up, meaning they're not studying in the afternoon. They only decided to study with me. Now, reason for this, they tell me, is that some of the schools do not want to cancel their contract with the English centers. If they do, they will lose because they've already paid. And they don't want to have a problem with some of the centers. So they decided to carry on until the end of the month, and then maybe they will relieve or they will cancel the contract. Then nobody loses. Another point is that there are some schools who are also still teaching in the afternoon. There are just 1 or 2. So on all my lists, all my afternoon classes have been cancelled with the exception of just 1 school. Outside the district I find myself, they still have the afternoon classes from grade 1 to grade 5. They still come to school. And I've tried to find reasons, but I'm not getting them. Maybe later I'll tell you why. So that is what is happening. Now, primary students are no longer attending extra classes. As it stands now, if your center has been shut down, what it means is that they are not registered with the government. The government does not know them. And that is all what the new law seeks to do, is to regulate extra teaching in centers or extra teaching in schools. It came as a shock to many of ESL teachers, with many thinking that ESL teaching is over, a whole lot of stories. But the truth of the matter is that this circular is to keep teachers in check and classes in check. So we have in Vietnam, we have a number of extra classes or a number of teachers. Almost all the teachers have extra tuition or extra classes after school. The science teachers, the math teachers, the English teachers, the social studies teachers, the art teachers. And this is what keeps kids running helter-skelter every day. Kids are moving right from class. They have extra class. They have their science class. From their science class, they have a math class. Some even have Vietnamese class. And after that, they also go to English class in the evening. Because of this, most students don't get time to play. And a lot of students are most of the time tired, even by the time they move to the centers. So the government decided to regulate these activities. Now, with this regulation, all extra classes are supposed to be registered. You're supposed to register your extra classes. If you have an English class or whatever, you're supposed to register it. And then you let the government know of your teachers, the amount you charge, the kids who will be in your class. Again, another specific thing that was mentioned was that if you work in the public school, you are not supposed to own a center. Now, I understand, or speaking to some of the Vietnamese, they tell me that what is happening, if you are a teacher, don't own an English center. Now, let's talk about how that is impacting on English teachers, or let's say ESL teachers in Vietnam. So like I told you, most teachers of these small centers, so after teaching, maybe they work in the public schools. After working, they have this 1 or 2 or 3 centers that they go to teach. Now, as it stands now, if your center has closed, what it means is that your center is not registered. Your center is not known by the government. And that is why it has been closed. Those professional centers or the centers who are doing things which aligns with the law are still operating their centers. And that is just the facts of the matter. Another effect this also has on foreign teachers or teaching in Vietnam is that if you had a center, or if you are in a center that had about 3 teachers. Now, most of the public schools are not working in the afternoon. That is also part of the regulation. The regulation also stated that there should not be any extra class for primary students. Where I teach, for instance, I teach in primary schools and secondary schools. So all my classes that I used to do in the afternoon have been cancelled. In the secondary section, they've all been cancelled. So I used to have a lot of secondary classes in the afternoon. They've all been cancelled because the kids no longer come to school in the afternoon. However, in other places or in other jurisdiction, I have primary students that I teach in the afternoon. I don't know how that is being done. I don't know how that is being done. I've asked, but I'm not really getting any tangible reason. So I used to have some classes in the afternoon in the primary school elsewhere. I still go to teach in the afternoon. I also have classes in some of the secondary and primary school, and they've all been cancelled. They tell me that the government has brought a new regulation that they should not learn in the afternoon with immediate effect. So I don't know how that is really. And I also have some of the classes that in the afternoon, only my kids that I teach will come to school. Are you going back? Okay, bye-bye. So these are my students. After the English class, they are going home. They are the only student who came for. The whole school is actually closed, as you can see. Students. Now, reason for that, I hear that they are saying that some of the schools had contracts with some of the English centers. And so instead of cancelling it, which will incur costs, they would rather want to go to the end of the month. Then maybe they can terminate their contract with the English center so that nobody loses. Because if they decide to lose, if they decide to cancel, it's going to affect whatever. So some of these centers are just waiting for the end of the month so that they can cancel their contract. Others are trying to look at a more feasible way to do this, that they won't break the new regulation and also won't have a problem with parents and students. So that is exactly what is happening in Vietnam. I've also received calls of a number of teachers whose contracts have been terminated, either by their centers or their school. That is possible, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there are no English teachers in Vietnam again. There are English teachers in Vietnam. In fact, this regulation is not adding or taking anything away from English teaching in Vietnam. Just that now there are rules and regulations. And so, a center which used to have 3-4 teachers may not necessarily need those 3-4 teachers again, because now there are no classes in the afternoon. Classes are only in the morning. Even if they have classes in the afternoon, they are just special classes that are being organized for the students. And so they wouldn't need 4 teachers. So they will have to push one away and then maybe keep the 2 or keep the 3 for all the morning and then maybe the evening classes. Now, this also has a little effect on the centers. Reason being that Circular 29 says that kids can only take extra class in culture, life skills, and PE. I think 3 of them. Those are the only subject that kids can take extra classes. And if you are a teacher in any of the schools and you decide to provide extra classes for the class, you cannot take any money. So this is the new regulation. So of course, despite the fact that this has no effect, or this doesn't talk about ESL teaching and foreign teachers in Vietnam, it indirectly affects teachers.